Hello, my friends. My name is Jinx, and I am back. Thank you all for your patience with me while I was away. I know you're not here for a family update and are kind of curious to see how the game is going, so suffice to say that we just had our third child, 4 weeks premature, 3 pounds 5 ounces, with lots of little complications and such, oxygen, respirator, NG tube, but it's been 2 weeks now since the baby is born, 2.5 weeks, and the baby is doing well, the baby is growing, and things are looking quite nicely for our family. So thank you all for your patience while I was away. The esteemed Trig took over the German forces, the German and the Italian forces while I was away, although we did keep in quite a bit of communication as that was occurring. So let's give a bit of a turn summary how the situation looks, and let's start with the Germans. The German forces are doing okay considering it's late game. In France, there's a fortified line kind of along the coastline with some forces in the coastal artillery holding back any further invasions would have to pass through the narrow line over here, the narrow crossing, and be bombarded by this two coastal artillery as they pass through. So that has a sort of a defense along the coastline, and things look generally okay for the Germans on this front. The Germans have some forces coming up now. There's some advanced infantry and a couple of Panzer Grenadiers. And in the east, they are successfully, so far, holding a front line against the Russians here in eastern Poland, although the Russian forces have swung around to the south, captured central Romania, and now the whole southern parts of the Balkans here are now open to the Russian further attack. But since their victory points reside here in Warsaw and Romania, they both need to be held to get 2 victory points. Likely they're going to keep in this vicinity over here. The Russians seem to be a little bit worried about a German attack, rightfully so. The mighty German forces are formidable and terrifying. And so therefore, the Russians are starting to build a fortification as well as having some decent amount of troops in Kiev itself. And that might be a bluff on my end, but we'll have to see how that pans out. And the Russians have also made a movement here in the northern portions here of Germany and pushed into Königsberg. They've captured all the Baltic states here as well, recaptured all of Finland, and have ambitions towards northern Germany as well. So that's the situation here for the German Eastern Front. We have the German fleet is off the coast of Portugal, a sizable fleet. We built it up years ago when we had a bit of a understanding between ourselves and the Russians, and we had hoped to do some grandiose things with them, but in the end of the day, they are still serving a purpose, and they have a decent amount of forces. I think they should have 3 battleships, although I only see 2 here now. Heavy cruiser, 2 battleships, 3 heavy cruisers, torpedo boat destroyer, and a bunch of regular destroyers. But I thought I had 3 German battleships. Am I mistaken in that regards? We used to. I have no clue what happened to that. So maybe it fell off the table. There it is. It's up here in the sky. So there's 3 German battleships present over here, plus the regular amount of forces that we see present. 3 heavy cruisers, etc. So that's what they've got going on here. From this position, they could threaten hit the eastern coast of America. They could also come back and threaten the British coastline there as well. And perhaps, the gates of the Gibraltar here, the Mediterranean, do some damage here against those forces there. So it's interesting how things are panning out for the German Navy. Turning our attention to the Russians, as aforementioned, they are now present in central Romania. They also have control of the Black Sea, from which point they could, in theory, come out and go swinging against Bulgaria, Istanbul. But other than that, it's kind of a quiet section of the world right here, the Baltic, the Black Sea, rather. They have a sizable amount of forces in Romania. That's plenty of Katyusha rockets there, quite a force to be hitting us with. And in the east, things aren't going as well for the Russians as they've lost Novosibirsk, Angara, and much of the Russian and Japanese border here on Manchuria. So things are a little bit slim for them, although they do have a presence of forces over here. I'm not sure if they could build for this miner factory anymore since there's no rail, but it should still be in supply. I can't see why not. It could swing around to the north, but I might be a little foggy on some of the details there. But that's what's occurring over here. The Japanese, for their part, have a sizable force in Mongolia and in Chita here, and we'll see what they end up doing with that. The Communist Chinese Party could, in theory, come out swinging in this neck of the woods as well, but it's kind of limits to what they can do with their kind of small income, and the Japanese could reinforce, in theory, a sizable force along this coastline as well. Not hugely, but a little bit anyways. The KMT is quiet for their part, slowly building up some forces, but just generally a fairly quiet turn. The Japanese have a decent force in Kwangtung, but otherwise kind of quiet on the Chinese-Japanese border. The Chinese did at one point capture Shanxi, and the Japanese did come and push them back out, but we might see another resurgence in this direction and a little bit of a push there. The Japanese, for their part, are doing quite well, holding on to their holdings over here. They have lost some of the Australian territories, although they still hold on to New Zealand. The Australians were just too much for them. The Japanese main force relies over in this neck of the woods. They started to build their heavy battleships, so now they've kind of gotten a victory point underneath their belt, I do believe, in the short, in the near future. And they also hold on to, what's this, Midway Island, I think it is. Yeah, that must be Midway. Here's Wake over here. They hold on to Midway Island, which means they can threaten the coastline here of America, which is an interesting position to be in. The Hawaiian Islands are fairly quiet with the bulk of the American Pacific Fleet over here off the coast of San Francisco, but they have a sizable amount of forces here. What's that? 3 tactical bombers, a fighter, and a couple of jet fighters as well, so that's looking pretty good for those guys. Not too bad whatsoever. But yeah, the main presence of the Japanese forces is here at Midway with the mighty navy sized right here. Things are looking pretty good for the Japanese forces. Turning our attention to the FVC. The FVC have made a move into southern Iran, capture that territory. Yeah, I think I would have rather seen the Germans hold them off in southern Iran, but I suppose this is just as good too, holding them in southern Iraq, although now we have both sides, the Americans and the British, coming at us over here. But, it's probably a good judgment call at the end of the day. That's the situation there. Egypt is being strongly held by a decent amount of Axis forces present here. Let's see. That seems to be, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12 units, plus another 4 are going to join them this turn. And that's pretty okay. That's pretty okay. The Americans could, in theory, come knocking on their door with a sizable amount of forces, but these anti-aircraft will be intimidating, plus the desert train and the fighters here as well. So yeah, it's going to be a tough cookie to crumble over here, I think. And the rest of Africa has fallen to the British and the Allied forces. The French went into Belgian Congo against our 6 Italian units here and wiped them out. Did quite a fantastic job against them, despite it being jungle. The Italians had moved up from, those Italians had traveled all over the place. They came down here, South Africa, Cape Town, and then did a slow retreat back up to Belgian Congo in hopes of, instead of doing a holdout in Cape Town and facing off against the French, and the French losing some units, mostly just their infantry, and keeping most of their vehicle class left behind. So we decided to slowly retreat back this way and kind of keep them occupied in our neck of the woods, which I guess we did to some extent, although they still have a sizable amount of forces. We didn't roll as good as we could have over here, but nonetheless, yeah, we're quite okay with that situation. We see the British have built a seaplane here now, so they're going to start hammering away at our submarines over here. But that's about it. The Americans, for their part, have captured Syria, doing quite well for themselves. We have this little factory here, so they grabbed that. Perhaps we should have built the factory in southern Iran, but hey, that's what it is. So that's the situation here. They have no means on getting over to Rome this turn. There's no port available here for them, unless I'm very much mistaken. We don't see anything that they can do to get to northern Italy, so we're going to take some risks over there. But apart from that, the Americans solidly hold the Mediterranean and can threaten much of it except for northern Italy mostly. Apart from that, it's been kind of quiet. They can't quite reach our forces outside of the Mediterranean as well, going only 2 territories, so they can go to Gibraltar, but that's about it. And our German Navy parked over here is a little bit free of them right now anyways. We'll have to see if things change up in the future. And that's basically the scoop behind how things look for across the board. I'm going to take a look at our income here now. I just did a little count up of what things look like, and altogether the Axis pull in $158 of income. The Comintern collect 155, and the Allies, where did they go? The Allies 119. So 158, 119, and 55. So collectively, I hope the math works out. Yeah, collectively, the Axis collect 158 to the Allies, and the Cominterns 174. So they outmass us by, what's that, almost 20 IPP, which is not a huge amount. We can still hold them off from that amount. But it is interesting to see how that is going for them. It's just a matter of time now. If they have enough time to capture our stuff, which I'm not sure they do, because it is turn number 16 right now. I think it's 16, maybe it is 17 for that matter. I can't recall. Maybe it's 16. Anyways, so that's a general scoop of how things are playing out for our forces here now. Can they win by the end of the game? They have 4 turns in which they could win. Each one is more and more likely. I don't really know. They need at least a turn. Nothing really could directly hurt us just yet. And they need at least, I think, at least 2 turns to get anything with a victory point. Although I could be mistaken somewhere. It'll take them a little bit. And taking a look at the victory point tracker, we have 9 victory points for the Axis, 4 for the Allies, and 3 for the Comintern. Although the Allies might now have, this is Triumph of Capitalism, so that's 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, 4 points. Yeah, that's 4 points. Unless I'm missing something somewhere. But yeah, 4 points against the Axis, 9. So there would have to be some serious swings in victory points to get the Allies into the head position. And the Comintern, of course, they have their own little problems in front of them. Specifically capturing, well, they got Helsinki now. That's the Winter War done. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're at 4 victory points. And I think they're pretty close to getting the technological achievement there. Some of the other ones might be a little harder to achieve, like access to the Mediterranean. That means that they have to get Istanbul, so they might be able to pick that one up. They might still be the second place contender here, but the Allies, I think, will struggle a little bit. Anyways, let us dive into the Italian turn. We rolled for their technology, and as usual, they failed. And so that means during the 16 turns we've played, we've had 5 successes, and we've had 5 successes. So that would bring us from, which is 16 turns. That's 11. And then there was in 2 turns where we didn't have factory. So 5 turns versus, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. And is that 8 or 9 misses? So yeah, we've been doing quite poorly for Italian tech. All right, production. We have 17 bucks to spend. We're going to send a mechanized infantry to the Germans, and that's the equal amount of representation. We have 17 bucks, an AA, 2 infantry build, and repair the damage to our airbase. That's 3 repaired damage. So that's what's going on for the Italians. Turning our attention to the board for our combat moves, we've got a couple. These 3 infantry are going to go ahead and attack Lebelski here and take it away from the British with his fighter 1, 2, 3, 4 with 1 movement left over. And we also are going to... yeah, that's 1 move. We're also sending 1 Italian to come to Western Ukraine. And there's nothing that can scramble from this position in 74. So I think we could easily pick that one up. So we're going to increase our Italian income by 1 at the very best. And I do believe that is it for all of our combat moves. Okay, so let us do this battle over here. I've prepared some dice. First, the attacking force. The infantry rolling at 1s and the aircraft at 4. So that's 1 hit. And now the enemy rolling at 2s for the 2 militia. That was almost a 1, but yeah, no 2 misses. So now we go into round 2. Our Italians are coming in. We have all misses this time around. And the British militia are rolling 1 dice here at 2. And that's a miss for the Italians, rolling a 6. Sorry, the British rolling a 6. Lastly, we have round number 3. Aircraft scoring a hit and 1 infantry scoring a hit. So 2 hits. Let's see if the British militia, the remnants of the Polish forces, if they manage to score a hit against us on the last turn. And that's a miss on that one. All right, so we've managed to capture this one here. And we give it over to the... oh, just got rid of our Italian aircraft. So we give it over to the Italians. Goodness gracious. Okay, that's it. So let me quickly run over here, adjust our income up to 14. Scurrying back here now. A quick glance to make sure that this is all taken care of. Okay, and now we have some non-combat moves. If there's anything else marked in red, we're going to go ahead and still do it. But yeah, it doesn't look like it. So this destroyer is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and go to the Bay of Bengal. We have this Italian transport is going to go into port over here. I think that's it. And then we're going to get some of these units moved around. These 4 Italian infantry type units, they're going to come up to Egypt. So we're going to strengthen this position a little bit. Many thanks to the Japanese for assisting us in the defense of the mighty place of Egypt here. That's fantastic. Good. And now we have over here, we're going to send 1 fighter from Rome to up north to northern Italy, and these 4 infantry from northern Italy to western Yugoslavia. And then we're going to rail some units. We're going to rail 3 infantry to eastern Poland, strengthen up this position again, at least for the right now. Oops. And we're going to rail this Italian anti-aircraft gun over to Istanbul. Just in case, you know, we never know when you're going to need it, but yeah, that seems to be appropriate. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all the lines. And now we will go over to our forces here. I'm going to delete this mechanized. I'm going to grab this up and bring it a little bit closer to where the action is. So keep in mind that's only 2 infantry being built. That third one just represents the repair damage on this airbase. So we'll take care of that, of course. Goodness gracious, I don't know why it does that. Well, okay. I have a good idea why it does that. Alright, there we have it. So delete that. Hopefully it doesn't delete anything else. These guys are built over here. And this mechanized, we're going to send it over to Eastern Germany. We designate which homeland territory it goes to. It can go through Slovakia, Dolna, Alaska, West Poland, over to Eastern Germany. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. We're going to send 1 militia from northern to southern. Mark it there. Hopefully that's okay with everybody. Yeah, I think that's okay with everybody. All right. If I'm not mistaken, that is it for our turn. Pretty well content with that. We go to the collect income phase. Collect income phase. That's 14 bucks, 15, 16, which if you include the lovely Egypt area. So 16 bucks, that means we're down from our 17 to 16. And that should conclude it for the Italian turn. Let me just double check the situation here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 17. I think that could hold out from what the Americans can throw at us. They can't throw too much. It's just a couple units here, unless we seriously miscalculated something over here. But that concludes it for the Italians. Thank you all for being part of this, for watching. We really do appreciate that. It makes things a whole lot funner for us to have a live audience who kind of cares at the outcome of how things are going. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Cheers.